Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this very special occasion. It's a distinct pleasure for me to be able to introduce to you the governor of Tokyo, man who became governor of Tokyo just this past December, Mr. Naoki Inose. Now, I'm not sure, I think Mr. Inose may be on his third career. When we first met, he was very active and very well-known journalist. He had a very distinguished career as a writer of nonfiction books in journalism, and has written about both literary figures like Mishima and also about history, including a book in English called Japan, Century of the Black Ships, about U.S.-Japan relations. When Mr. Koizumi became Prime Minister, he recruited Mr. Inose to help him with his privatization efforts, and Mr. Inose was the key player in the privatization of the highway system and became quite well known in the country for his strong views and his persistence in making the Koizumi agenda come to life. And then in 2007, Tokyo Governor Mr. Ishihara appointed Mr. Inose as vice governor. And in the election that was held this past December, he became the new governor of Tokyo. This is his first visit to New York since becoming governor, and I think we'll all be interested in what he has to say about his vision for the city and his vision for the country. So without further ado, let me welcome to the stage Governor Naoki Inose.
Good evening. It is an honor to be here today. May I first express my sympathies to the people of New York for the devastation you suffered from Hurricane Sandy. I would like to also say how grateful we are for the support and encouragement we received from the citizens of the United States after the Great East Japan earthquake. We, the people of Japan, are united in our efforts for recovery. Amid such circumstances, Japan and Tokyo are now aiming to win the bid for the 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Today, I would like to speak about how I, as governor of Tokyo, plan to present Tokyo to the world through activities such as our bid for the Summer Games, and introduce my style of leadership as governor of Tokyo. Please allow me to continue in Japanese. それでは
Ladies and gentlemen, you have a screen to watch, so please watch the screen while you listen to my presentation. Next page, please. This is the picture of the place that I visited today. Do you know this pub? It's called McSorley's Old Ale House. Do you know, is there anybody who knows this place? I took this picture today. This is the master of the pub. on the floor. It's covered with chaffs, rice husks, or the sawdust. There is a famous writer, James Joyce. He wrote a book called Citizens of Dublin. And in his work, he describes a scene. Workers, laborers smoke, and they just discard the butts, and they will spit, and then they will mix with the sawdust, and then they will extinguish the cigarette butt, as well as getting rid of the spit. Unfortunately, because of the rule in the city, you can't smoke in the pub. But I took this picture. So you see, there is this tradition of sawdust on the floor. The beer is stout beer. Why do I talk about such a thing to begin my presentation? 20-some years ago, I visited this pub, and I just focused my attention on this. 1854, that's the number that I saw. Next slide. Commodore Perry took black ships to come to Japanese port. It was in 1853. The next year, 1853, they came with 4 ships. 17th century, 18th century, and in the beginning or until the mid-19th century, Japan maintained its independence in peaceful situations. So what we knew was all peaceful world. And then 1853, Commodore Perry led 4 black ships, and we just denied their entry. And then they went back to Okinawa, Ryukyu Islands, and then the next year, the McSorley pub was opened in 1854. In that year, they came with 7 warships again. And so by force, Japan was incorporated into the international community. But in a way, it was an eventual major current of the world history. Now, I wrote this book, The Century of the Black Ships. It covers 1 century or so, and this book talks about various military balance as well as journalistic attitudes, how they portrayed the military balance and various countries, including China, Russia, US, Japan, including the Pacific region. What is going to happen to the future of the world? There were many books written regarding the future of wars between US and Japan. I collected 100 old books, and then I produced this book. 20 years ago, I published this. So at your leisure time, I hope that you will have time to read this book. So, Japan was incorporated into the international community, but in its own unique way, we went through the path of modernization. Including Europe and the United States, there was modernity, what was called modernity. And the modernity would be only accomplished in Europe and in the United States. That was the understanding of the 19th century. However, for a century and a half, Japan was neither European way, but quite similar to European way. That was the modern world that we built in the century and a half. In Harvard University, there is a professor called Dr. Samuel Huntington. He categorizes world civilization into 7 categories. That's how he discussed. Japan civilization is separate from China or Korean Peninsula. He says that Japanese civilization is unto itself, unique on its own. So next slide. One example, I think it's easy to understand with a concrete example. This is the tap water from Tokyo, from faucets. From the tap, you can drink water directly. And there are only 11 countries in the whole world where tap water is drinkable. Of course, in New York, in new buildings, you can drink directly tap water. Tokyo water is all treated. And it's a clean water. It is a potable water. You don't have to buy bottled mineral waters. This is just an example of our product. It's a tap water, bottled tap water, and we are trying to export our water supply system to Southeast Asian countries. So water treatment, we do it by way of ozonation. It's an ozone treatment. And then after that, we have biological activated carbon. And then the water is treated. So the water goes through 5 levels. As a result, we get a highly cleansed quality of water. And what is advanced is even more explained in the next slide. Can you show one page afterwards? Underground Tokyo, we have the total length of 26,000 kilometers. Big pipes to very small pipes. We have a total length of going around the earth, and we have the centralized control, and the water leakage rate is only 3%. So you see in this control room, pressure is indicated covering the entire region of Tokyo. It looks like a subway map, doesn't it? But this is the pipeline map of water supply pipes. So one page backward. So water leakage rate is 3%. It's the world record. In all cities, usually water leakage rate is somewhere around 10%. Asian cities, many of them have the leakage rate of 30-40%. When you have a low leakage rate, what happens? What is possible? The method of controlling the water supply. This is the amount of water consumption during the football game Japan versus Australia in Asia Cup. The black line is the normal water intake, water consumption, the black dotted line. So when we had the soccer game of Japan and Australia, it was held in Qatar. So there was a jet lag, there was a time difference. So starting time was midnight. Usually at 11 o'clock at night, you go to toilet and then you go to bed, and the water consumption goes down. You take baths, so you take the shower, you take baths, and then you go to bed. But the game started, so everybody goes to toilet. So it's a red line. And then once a game starts, you are riveted to television. And then halftime, you go to toilet. And then once again, game restarts. And then it didn't end there. So there was an extended match. So you go to toilet again. So the extended game is 15 minutes. So then 5-minute break or so, and then again. So at the very end of the game, it so happened that Japan won in this game. So they took a leisurely bath. And then they soaked in warm water. They went to a toilet, and then they went to bed 2 o'clock in the morning, satisfied with the good result. There is a complete control of the water supply. Meticulous and very exact control system is utilized in Tokyo, not only in terms of water supply alone, but the subway network too. This is the greatest attraction and the strong points of Tokyo. Now this picture, we have the state-of-the-art technology. At the same time, we have the mastery of the human resources skills. During nighttime, you walk along the street, the middle-aged men. They are listening to the sound underground. They are listening through the device of whether water is leaking. So they make their judgment with the audio skill. This is a simple device. It's just an iron bar with a magnifying audio equipment. This is analog, this is digital. So one section is carved out, and then the water leakage is inspected and detected. So we accomplish the high level of 3% water leakage rate in Tokyo. Next slide. Well, today I heard that there was a very unfortunate explosion during the Boston Marathon game. I regret that. It's just too bad. This is the picture of Tokyo Marathon. This is the start line of the marathon in front of TMG building. 36,000 people participate as runners, and along the rows there are spectators. 1.7 million people gather around streets and cheer the runners up. And 10,000 volunteers work in this game of marathon. In this building, they change their clothes. This is TMG building, and this is the Tokyo Metropolitan Assembly building. So between the Metropolitan Assembly and the TMG building, there is a flyover. So in this building, the runners change their clothes. They change to sportswear. They begin running. And then at the finish place, 42 kilometers ahead, there is a finishing line. It is an international convention center-like place. It's a fairground building. And then all the changed clothes were transported from the starting point to the finish line without any mistakes. It is better than the hotel's cloak service. 36,000 runners get their clothes without any mistakes. This is the capability and power of Tokyo. Oh, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, last year in February, I challenged Tokyo Marathon for the first time, and I completed the full length, full distance. I completed the run. 1 year before that, I just began running around my house, only a mere distance of 300 meters. And then I extended it to 500 meters, 1 kilo. So I increased it. By the end of that year, I reached barely 10 kilometers. But Tokyo Marathon took place in February. So from 10 kilometers to 42K, I needed a very, very big decision on my part. So I thought about the strategy to go about it. So from 30K to 42K, 12 kilometers, you run 12 kilometers length. And then, if you just arrive at 30K point, it's a deja vu. You have already run 12K. So everybody gets tired at the 30K point. So I took risk. But risk management was possible. I did the proper risk management. So I started from 300 meters, and then 1 year afterwards, I completed the full marathon distance. At the age of 65, I did that. So you can do that. So normal days, I used to drive my car for 2 minutes to a tennis court, which was just a 5-minute walk away. That was the kind of lifestyle I led. Okay, next picture. This is the picture of this year's marathon. So we invited the children from Fukushima. So I ran 2K. It was a children's running course for 2K. So I ran together with children from Fukushima. It was parents and children. So now I go to the bidding for Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic Games for 2020. I've been talking about the ability and capability that Tokyo has in terms of operation. This is called Skytree, Tokyo Skytree, 600-meter height, and this is colored in Olympic color. Earlier on, I referred to Professor Samuel Huntington. He said that the Japanese civilization is unto itself. Modernization was accomplished by its own. Of course, a black ship triggered the process of modernization, but Japan accomplished the modernization on its own. Why were we able to do that? Why do we have the high level of organizational capability as well as high technology and also have a sophisticated hospitality, omotenashi spirit? How come we are good at those factors? How come we are good at them?
秘密はここにあります。
Secret is right here.
つまり
What I mean to say is that in the middle of the urban center, we have nothingness. We have zero.
言葉で言う無が
This is nothingness according to the terminology of Zen Buddhist sect. Central Park may be a bit different direction. All high-rise buildings surround the world of emptiness. High-rise buildings are built along the zero area. The transportation network is surrounding this area of emptiness. I think this is our unique order and sense of balance. There is a philosopher by the name of Roland Barthes from France, and he said that there is a sacred center in Tokyo, and all business it's a hustle-bustle cities would be surrounding the sacred center, and there the certain order is maintained according to his analysis. Now, talking about Olympic Games, it's the unique capability that we have. This is the operational capability. I think our ability would be reflected in our organization for the Olympic Games. We are confident about our capability. This is the picture of Tokyo Station. Grand Central Station was built in the same year as Tokyo Station.
Right, 次行きましょう。そして、新しいビジネスについて皆さんに提案させていただきたい。この東京の中で太い青い線で取り囲んだエリア。まあ多分ニューヨークで言えばマンハッタンに当たる部分だと思っていただければいいと思いますが、このエリアを新しい外国の方々が来ていただくための拠点にしたい。
zones to attract people from overseas. We are calling it Asian Headquarters Special Zones.
というのは国家の決定というのはスピードが遅い。
When countries make decisions, it takes a lot of time, but cities move very quickly. So, if we are governed by the country's law, we tend to get behind. So we are creating new special zones, and this idea was born under Koizumi administration. And we are calling it Asian Headquarters Special Zone, where we want to invite financial institutions and other foreign corporations, blue chip companies, and we are trying to invite them. We are kind of preparing for them to come to Japan and establish their headquarters. Next slide, please. Currently, the effective tax rate for Japan is 40.7%, but in these special zones, we can reduce the effective tax rate to 26.9%. That's already been confirmed. And also, in the course of Abenomics, we want to drop this further to 20.2%. This, of course, includes corporate tax, like a federal tax, and also municipal tax. So we want to drop the effective corporate rate from 40.7% to 22.2% in these special zones. So we are urging foreign companies to set up their headquarters in these special zones.
現在のニューヨークの
This is
法人実効税率は
the current New York corporate
45.67%。
tax rate, which is
それが
45.67%,
39.82% になる。
and that will be
しかし、
reduced
今
to
申し上げましたように、
39.82% in case of New York. But
日
as I
本の法人
said,
実効税率は
the
40.7%
Japanese
で、
effective corporate
特に
rate
指定さ
tax
れる
rate
ことによ
is
って 26.9%
40.7%.
になりますが、さら
But
に
if you come to the special zone,
20.2%
you
ま
get the
で
tax break to
今回のアベノミクスの
26.9%.
中で
And within the
提
policy
案
of
して
Abenomics, we
多
are
分
proposing a further
決めることができる
reduction
と、
to
そういうふうに思っています。
20.2%. We believe we can make this come true.
もちろん
Of course,
法人税を安くするということだけではなく、
corporate tax is not the only
外国
means
人
to
のつまり
invite
英語を
foreign
喋れる
companies,
救急車、
but we want to provide English-speaking ambulance service
英語を
in
喋れる
Tokyo,
お医者さん、
and we want to have doctors and nurses, babysitters who speak
そういう
English
すでに今
to cater
東京の
to
東京駅の
people
前
from
の
overseas.
丸の内
So
ビ
in
ル、新
Marunouchi
丸ビル
district
というビルがあ
area,
るんですが、
there's
そ
a
こに
building called
コンシェルジ
Shin
ェを置いて
Malubiru,
今い
and
ろん
we
な相談に乗ってい
have
ます
already
が、
created a
そういう
concierge
ものをきちんと
to offer consulting
配置したい
services
と思っていま
to
す。
people from overseas. So we want to further enhance these services.
ここにちょっと今書いてあります。
We have some description here about the kind of services that we are
そして
offering or planning
今
to
ニュー
offer.
ヨークは地下鉄
Currently
が
in New York,
24時間運行してますけれども、
there are
東京は夜の
subway
1
services
時過
which
ぎま
run
で、
24 hours
朝は
a day, but
5時少し前ぐらいから、
they stop running in
その3時間ぐらい
Tokyo
は
from
地下
1
鉄を動いてい
a.m.
ません。
and they start
これは
resuming services at 5 a.m. So about 3-4 hours at
ニュー
night
ヨーク
there
の場合、
are
地下
no
鉄は
services.
複々線、
In the case of New York, there are multiple lines. I think there are 4 lines,
古い
subway
大
lines
きな地下鉄の場合は
for major
複々線というこ
lines.
とで、そして
So
深夜のメ
they
ンテ
can
ナンスをう
accommodate
ま
for
く交代できるの
trains,
で、
so they
ただ
can
日本の
switch
場合は
trains
複
for
々線なの
maintenance
で、
at night. In the
だから
case of
24時間走行ができ
Japan,
ない
there are
です。
only 2 set
でき
of
るだけ
tracks,
その時
so
間帯を伸ばすと
the
いうことで
operating
今、
24 hours a day
考えてい
in
る
the
ところ
case
で
of
すが、
Tokyo is very difficult. We are trying to make
バ
it
スを今日
possible
新しく
for
始めたと
us
するん
to
です
run
が、
24 hours a day. This is
バ
the
スは
first
24
time
時間
we
できる
announced
だろう
this. I think we
という
can
こと
do
で、
this for
ニ
bus
ューヨークと同
services.
じように、
As in the case of New
都
York,
営
we
バ
want
ス
to
を
run
24時間
city-run
運行し
bus
ようと
services
いうふうに
24
思っていま
hours a
す。
day. This is our
ま
plan.
ず最初に渋谷から六
So
本木ま
first we
で
start from Shibuya Station
24
to
時間
Roppongi
運行を
and
始
run
めるつもり
buses
で
for
す。今
24
年
hours
中に。
a
まあ、
a
今
day
年のクリスマスプレゼン
sometime
トぐらいになると思い
by
ます。
Christmas.
まあ、
Maybe
そ
it
こ
will be
か
a
らまず
Christmas
始めてい
present.
って、そういう意味
And
では今
we
回
will
ニューヨー
start
ク
from
の
there. So in
地下
that
鉄
sense,
および
New York
バスの
subways and bus services in
深夜
New
の運
York
行をい
that
ろいろ
run
と
throughout the
視
night
察することも目
is
的できまし
something
た。
that I want to study and look at
もう一つ
during
は先ほど言い
this
ましたよう
visit.
に、
And
日本
another
の地下鉄
thing
は
is, as I
時
said
間が正確で
earlier,
す。
the Japanese
そ
subways
して
run
僕は
exactly
今
on time.
自分の書棚に
And
書斎にある
on
ん
my
ですが、
in my house, on
1930
my
年の
bookshelves,
時刻表を見つけました。
I found
こ
a
れは古本屋さんにあり
timetable
ました。
from 1930
その
that I
1930
found
年
in
の
the
時刻表
bookstore.
には、
And the
夜
timetable
のやは
in
り最
1930
終
it
電車が夜の
says
1時、
that
そして始
the
発電車
trains
は
stop
朝の4時50分。
running at 1 and
そして
they start
地下鉄と
services
それ
at
から
5:40,
その他の
and
私
for
鉄が
subways and other private
4
train
分おきにき
systems,
ちんと
they
運行されてい
run
る。
at 4-minute
こういう実
intervals
績を持ってい
and
ます。
they run
そういう中
at
で
exact times.
ニューヨークに学ぶべきものは学び、
And
そして
there are
独自
many
に
things we can learn from New York.
正確さを含め
And
た
also
精密さにおい
including
て
precise
東京が
timing.
優れているの
I
で、さらに
think
それを
there are
追求していきたい。
features that
こういうふうに
we
思ってい
excel
ます。そ
at.
して今、東京では2つの
And
地下鉄
currently
会社、
there are two metro
国がやって
service
いた
companies.
公団系の
One
会社と、
used to be a national run company, and there's another set of subways run by the metropolitan city government of Tokyo. In the case of New York, multiple number of subway companies were integrated into one in 1940. We want to do that in Tokyo.
これで終わり？まだある？
Is this it? Did I have more? We have to go back to the Olympics.
We have to talk about Olympic and Paralympic Games a bit. This took place last year in summer. In London, Japanese team won so many medals. So this was the victory parade along Ginza Street, the busiest. It was almost like a Times Square in New York. Ginza Street is like that. 500,000 people gathered to watch this victory parade. So the athletes came back from London, and they were warmly welcomed by the Japanese crowd. Next page. Tokyo is bidding for 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games. We have a bid. Last summer in London, Olympic and Paralympic Games were held. In the case of developed countries, there is a different level of hospitality. London Olympic Games was a very good game. London Games. Now, currently, this year in September, the decision will be made regarding the city to host the 2020 Games amongst Tokyo, Istanbul, and Madrid. So in 2004, IOC conducted the opinion survey about the public support. In London, the support rate was 67%. And the next year, which is equivalent to this year, in the case of Tokyo's bid, 68%. Before the victory parade, the support rate was 47%. But as of now, the support, public support is in excess of 70%. So in that sense, we are almost on par with London, and we are on an ascending trend. According to the recent bid committee's support, it was as high as 77%. But mind you, this is the IOC's figure. It is the public number. It is a publicized number, and we are happy about these high numbers. After all, it's the passion for sports that we have. Otherwise, you cannot have a successful bid. IOC will be able to have the best partner. Hosting an Olympic Games would cost hundreds of billions of yen. So, which city would be the best partner to have a successful games? That is the serious point that IOC will have to consider and deliberate. Therefore, this was the scene from the Evaluation Commission. IOC's Evaluation Commission came to Tokyo. It's a very fair and neutral evaluation this commission will give. They spend 4 days in Tokyo, and they listened to Tokyo's presentation. They had the inspection tour. They saw the venues. They saw the facilities. And they come to the evaluation conclusion. They went to Madrid, and then they also went to Istanbul. In the past, bribery may have worked, but now it doesn't. And this is all up to evaluation commissions. How best can we explain our bid plan? That's what it takes. Next paper, next picture, of course. This is the picture of I making a presentation. Let's go to the next page. So how much passionate we are. We have to show how passionate we are about sports. So you see, it's me playing tennis. You see the ball. The person in red shirt, he is a Grand Slam champion of wheelchair tennis. All Australia, all US, all France, Wimbledon. So in 4 major champions, he won. Federer, Mr. Federer, very famous, you know the tennis player, Federer. There was no Japanese can win in Wimbledon. That was the comment by a Japanese person. Then the Federer said, look at Kunieda, the wheelchair champion. So Beijing and the London Olympic Games, he had the 2 consecutive gold medals, Mr. Kunieda. the Paralympic champion. So this is the picture where the evaluation commission members were there. My hit rate of smash was 50%, and I successfully had a beautiful smash in the presence of evaluation commission members. I'm so happy about it. Do you know this person? Mr. Abe, he said something very nice. I failed once, he said, but I came back. There is always a second chance in life, he said. And Tokyo's bid is a second challenge for us. So we have a prime minister who can clearly says that for the last 6-7 years, you can consider that he's grown up in terms of the equality to become a prime minister. He even sang in the presence of evaluation commission members. I forgot about the song. At the time of 1964 Olympic Games, the higher, the stronger, and the faster, there was a song. And he sang that Japanese song, which was composed and rather popular in 1964. So this is the picture of the banquet. That's okay. In 1964, we had the honor of hosting the games. And we built a national stadium. Exactly on the same place, we will be building a new stadium. Iraqi British architect designed this national stadium. She won in the international competition. Of course, it was an international competition, and at the fair screening, she won. At the London Olympic Games, I think the swimming pavilion was designed by this architect. So we plan to make this. From the point of view of earthquake resistance, the currently standing national stadium is outdated and antiquated. So we have to make something new. So I go back to my original topic of my presentation. So let's move on. What is the urban capability of Tokyo? There is a ranking table of various cities in terms of their urban capabilities. Global Power City Index 2012 by the Mori Memorial Foundation. This is the city ranking. So, top city is London, the second one, New York, third one, Paris, and the fourth one is Tokyo. 1 year ago, New York was the top. But after London Olympic Games, evaluation became higher for London, and London took over the first place. Maybe next year you will regain the first ranking position. So 1, 2, 3, 4, always they hover around those high ranks then, including Singapore, fifth, and these four major cities by far ranked higher than other cities. So these four cities are regarded as having the greatest urban capability. In terms of data, you can really demonstrate that. So what is the strong point about the major cities? That is explained on the next page. In the case of Tokyo, in terms of total, we rank the fourth. Economy, the first. So what is the area that Tokyo ranked rather low? I was a bit disturbed about this. Right here. Subways do run punctually, so the greatest problem is the airport capacity. Airport capacity is constrained. That was bad. New York, you have JFK, you have LaGuardia, and you have Newark. So you have 3 airports forming a triangle. But in Tokyo, we have Narita, and then we have Haneda. So we still we suffer from short supply of airports. Right here you have Korea. Hong Kong, Seoul, Korea, or Frankfurt, they are ranked higher than Tokyo. Haneda Airport, since I became the deputy governor, I went through negotiation and it was upgraded to an international airport, but still 60,000 departures and arrivals still. So we need twice or three times the capacity than the current level. So we still suffer from the short supply. Another point, there is a challenge continuing on from Ishihara's government. To the west of Tokyo, there is a U.S. air base called Yokota. It is almost not used, but U.S. is not returning that to Japan. So U.S. base could be subject to joint use between Japan and U.S. And then we can form a triangle just like New York. But unfortunately, the international airport access is our weak point. That's why we are ranked rather low. So accessibility is bad. But the other areas, we have done so much improvement, pushing up the rank of Tokyo. So I have given you the general rundown, general summarization of what I wanted to say. I was introduced by Professor Gerald Curtis. He mentioned that from 2001 to 2006, during Koizumi administration, I worked for the privatization of Highway Corporation. So I was asked to do this privatization work of Highway Corporation. Prime Minister Koizumi, well, there is a reputation that Japanese prime ministers do change every year. So in that sense, Prime Minister Koizumi continued for 5 years, and he was a person of decision-making, and he was a person of leadership. And he was regarded as some kind of a strange person in a way. Japan suffers from a low rate of mixing strange guys or strange people amongst our population. So my role I found in that. So Governor Ishihara, former governor, asked me, Inose, please become the deputy governor. Under Koizumi Prime Minister, I worked for 5 years and 5 months. And then the Governor Ishihara belongs to strange sort of personality in the personality league. So after him, I served as vice governor, deputy governor for 5 years and 5 months. And then last year in December, I was elected to the post of governorship of Tokyo. Reform. It's very important to have speed in reform. There's no point in talking about reform which will happen 10 years ahead. You need a decision. You need a decisive judgment. Earlier on, there were new recruits coming to work in Tokyo Metropolitan Government. So in the ceremony, I said, we don't need any honor students. The honor students will emulate the next smart guy, and the next smart guy will copy the next smart guy standing next. So what is needed is an initiative to come up with the ideas. The important thing is to have a flash of mind, presenting hypothesis always, and to demonstrate the hypothesis with a sense of speed. And you have to attach great importance to what you say, words. So that was my message to the newly recruited staff members at Tokyo Metropolitan Government. In December, it was a first experience for me to run in an election. So Prime Minister Koizumi came to cheer me up. And Mr. Inose has never bowed in front of anybody. He has never bowed, he said, Mr. Koizumi said. But as long as you say something which is proper and which has to be communicated, he'll do all right. That's what Mr. Koizumi said. Well, as a result, I collected 4.34 million votes. And I think I can see myself objectively. I thought it was a great number. 4.3 million votes. So Guinness Book of Record, I immediately thought. It is a world record, I thought. Half jokingly. Then I was countered. Governor Schwarzenegger collected 6 million votes. But just be reminded, 30 million people live in the state of California. Tokyo has a 13 million population. So per capita, actually, my getting vote rate was higher than Governor Schwarzenegger. So, all in all, Tokyo and New York became sister cities in 1960. For Tokyo, most important city is New York. That's what I am convinced of. Hurricane Sandy hit New York. Damage was indeed awesome. But Tokyo, we learned a great lesson from March 11, Great East Japan earthquake. Always, whatever natural disaster may hit, we must be able to cope with the situation. Risk management must be planned beforehand. Leadership must be executed in a moment. But sometimes natural force is beyond the human capability. I am fully aware of that. But Japan is criticized for making decision very slow. Because we have silo structure in bureaucracy. US, you have United States of America, but I call Japan United Ministries of Japan. That's what Japan is. But Tokyo is not a ministry. Tokyo is a state. We can establish a model. We can pursue reform. If we do that, Japan eventually will change. That is the conviction with which I run the government. Fortunately, Prime Minister Abe will come up with the good policies going forward. There is a possibility of having a good government. So Mr. Abe and I already have a very close communication channels. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you participate in special zone of Asian headquarters. We are thinking of special tax breaks. So I hope that the New York financial institutions will establish its headquarters or units, not a branch, but headquarters, mind you, establish it in Tokyo. I appeal to you. Tokyo is a growing market. And leader has changed. So, ladies and gentlemen, I still have some time, so I would like to enjoy conversation with you, dialogue with you. Thank you very much indeed for your kind attention.
You know, most people who become governors of these prefectures, big city like Tokyo, they either come from a background as in the bureaucracy, the United Ministries of Japan phenomenon, or from a political career, having been in the Diet or coming up from local government. So as you could see from listening... So as you can see, Mr. Inose is a very different type of leader. She said, you know, Mr. Koizumi was known as Henjin, and Mr. Ishihara was. I won't call Mr. Inose Henjin, but I will say he is very different. And he's really good news for Tokyo, bringing a very fresh view and vision for this wonderful city. So we want to use the time we have for you to ask him questions, and I'm going to open, if you raise your hand, and just briefly identify yourself when you do. We'll start right over there. First hand up.
Orlando Camargo from the Dylan Schneider Group. Governor, welcome to New York. I think that many of us in America have a lot of hope for Japan and the new Japan. But the problem is Japan has fallen off the map globally. People are afraid that there's nuclear issues, that things don't get decided, that there's no spokespersons to represent Japan globally. What do you think needs to be done for Japan to get back on the map?
Very important question you raised. At the time of Prime Minister Koizumi's administration, things were better, don't you think? You didn't like that? First and foremost, certainly. Actually, in the process of bidding for the Games, we don't have a personality like Beckham, the football player from UK. There was a sprint runner, the famous, very famous person from the US. Carl Lewis. Carl Lewis, the other day, came to our government building, TMG. He said that he wanted to support Tokyo's bid. Unfortunately, Carl Lewis, we don't have another Carl Lewis in Japan. But baseball, it's not Olympic event. But 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, in the World Baseball Classic, Mr. Matsui of Yankees was very active, and he did a very good performance. And Ichiro is playing just fine. So, as I explained, on the map of the Earth, Japan is a small island country. And yet, we are running at the state-of-the-art technology. In terms of art, we have the most modern and state-of-the-art creation. Nobel Prize. Professor Yamanaka won a Nobel Prize this year or last year. It was fantastic. It is ESP cells. From the opposite direction, people used to think. But that produced a fantastic result. Very individual, very revolutionary initiative and thinking coming from the likes of Professor Yamanaka.
Okay.
So that's my answer.
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Owen Rosa. I work for Sojitz Corporation. And I was a Tokyo Metropolitan Government scholarship student in high school. 1993, I went to Japan, Tokyo, lived there for 1 year. Sorry. That program continued for about 10 years. And then from my understanding, the government cut the program because of a number of issues, but they just felt it wasn't necessary anymore. So I was wondering, after my program, I spent the next 20 years. It's been exactly 20 years since I went to Japan for the first time, and I've dedicated a lot of my life to learning Japanese and going to school there, working there, and now working for a Japanese company here in New York. So I feel to really bridge these gaps, these type of programs are really necessary to continue. And I wanted to know what you plan to do to reintroduce a lot of these scholarship programs that have died away, I guess, over the past few years.
Again, very important topic you presented. What was the year that you went to study in Japan? What was the year? 93? 1 year. So it was TMG scholarship program? Yeah, because of New York-Tokyo relationship. Yes, I was from New York. That's why I went. Well, going forward, I would like to revisit such a topic. I think it's better that we do it. reintroduce the program. I think it's good. But there are national systems, there are many programs. So I don't know how much we spent as a TMG portion. So I'd like to look into it. There is a system for school teachers. So you become school teachers and stay in Japan for 1 or 2 years teaching at elementary schools or junior high schools, and then they can go back. English teacher. I'm talking about the high school student exchange student program. Well, absolutely. I would like to revisit that topic. I am currently at Shuto University. I'm a professor at that university. Currently, I'm a visiting scholar at Columbia Business School. As you know, Shuto University is managed by the Tokyo metropolitan government, and you are my boss. So I have a question, kind of demonstrating I'm doing my job. In the bid to the Olympics Games, you said that attention to detail in management would be a big plus. But the reason why we can do that, as far as we saw in the picture, I think there's a nothingness in the middle of Tokyo. I think that's the Imperial Palace. I kind of understand that emotionally, but when foreigners look at that, I don't know if they can really understand that sense. In order for people to have other people really understand, do you have any other means? Nobody mentioned about it hitherto. That's why, in the presence of the Evaluation Commission members, I explained, then they understood. So the way of explanation that I had was never resorted to in the past. So at the Columbia University, I hope that you will try your explanation to see how many New Yorkers would understand this context.
Yes, that's below, and then I'll come back here.
Thank you very much. Nima Durrani from Tradewind New Energy Advisors. I work in the energy sector, and especially with regards to new energies and renewable energies. And it's truly remarkable the transformation that Japan made in the wake of the earthquake, because before 2011, it was only very rarely that you heard about Japanese companies in the renewables field. Yes, there is Mitsubishi, but in the wake of the earthquake, in the span of just 2 years, it has really proliferated the number of Japanese companies that are active in this market, particularly on projects that are being built in North America and Europe. But particularly with regards to Japan, what I would like to know from you is which particular government initiatives, whether they are at the national level or at the state level, are being introduced to promote renewable energies. For example, there have been some initiatives mentioned with regards to offshore wind, because Japan is obviously well poised to exploit that kind of resource. And thank you very much.
In fact, after the disaster, regarding TEPCO, Tokyo Electric Power Company, I took one initiative, and I have, in a way, urged further reform. We had a discussion with METI, including the renewable energies. You see, this is the monopoly situation of 9 powers. So a new power proportion should be raised to 30%. That's what I said. So I have communicated that message to METI Minister, and TEPCO's monopoly regime has to be changed. Concrete reform must be continuously done, and I did that. It's the same methodology that I took for the privatization of highway corporations. The cost items were analyzed, and wasteful things were hidden hitherto, and that must be exposed. And I have made such approaches to TEPCO, and we were able to reduce costs so much. the TEPCO is a monopoly organization in a way, so they can be divested. So the power generation and power transmission business can be segregated, and they can be resolved in a systematic way. We are on its way. So that's one thing. And another thing is the public-private partnership fund is created by TMG. TMG's tax money and private sector money are put into one fund in Chiba Prefecture in a place called Sodegaura. 100,000 kilowatt power station is being built, and Mega Solar is being built in Kumamoto Prefecture. So these are the projects which are implemented in a concrete way. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, lady over there.
Hi, I'm Kei Shimizu, and I teach Japanese politics and East Asian politics at Columbia University. Thank you for coming today. I was very interested in hearing your opinion about Tokyo's relationship to the rest of Japan. We understand that you're the governor of Tokyo now, but in your past, you've also worked with the national government, and you've also been part of the committee for decentralizing Japan. And I think part of our concern from the US viewpoint, or even the viewpoint of New York, is Tokyo seems to be alive and well, but what about the rest of Japan that has really perhaps dragged the nation down or is suffering over the last 2 decades? What can Tokyo do, or what can you as governor do to really revitalize Japan and bring it back into the powerhouse that it once was?
Well, first we have to start from Tokyo. I think we need to change Tokyo and then eventually reach the entirety of the country. As I mentioned earlier on, Ministry of Japan, the United Ministry of Japan doesn't work. So Tokyo is the heart of Japan. The heart as an organ. So by pulsating the heart in a healthy way, the blood will circulate throughout the whole body. So making Tokyo more powerful will create power for the entire nation of Japan. That's how I feel about it. Certainly in regional areas, aging is progressing and so forth. But in the past, a hospital was built at the top of the hill, and you can drive to the hospital, but the elderly people will not be able to drive a car, so the elderly people are coming back to the city centers. So wherever possible, we will have a compact centralization. Well, having said that, just like New York, the population is growing in Tokyo. So that's the vital source for Tokyo to enable other regions to be revitalized. And then we have to globalize. I talked about the economic special zones for Asian headquarters. So we will create special zones, thereby introducing foreign capabilities more so to Tokyo and other areas. You see, Kasumigaseki government ministries, they have silo structure, they have regulations. So we must have the deregulation so that Tokyo will have more vitality. That's very important. So a strange guy should become a governor in order to accomplish that.
ですね、ニューヨークに来て大学院で勉強して山崎と申しますけれども、韓国とか中国の関係について聞きたいんですけれども、私は10年前に韓国にいまして、韓国マスターしてまして、今もずっと彼らと交流があるんですけれども、そこでも話になることいろいろあるんですけれども、先ほど知事が東京特にしたいということをおっしゃっていましたけれども、多分アメリカだけじゃなくて、アジアからの招致も考えていらっしゃると思うんですけれども、そこにおいて
from Asian countries, and in terms of relationship with Asian countries, how do you plan to build a more friendly relationship with Asian neighbors? Well, if you look at Yahoo News, from time to time, every time we hear news from Korea or China, I often read comments, and there are unfortunate comments, and many people tend to agree with certain comments. Of course, there is a territorial issue and history issues, and we should contend what we believe is true, but at the same time, we really should try to build friendships, and I'd like to ask you.
Usually on the internet, there are eccentric people who make entries. You shouldn't get bothered. In my election, it was the same. Negative entries on the internet, 80 to 90%. But actual votes were cast in the opposite direction. So you shouldn't be bothered by the negative discussions on the internet. They like discussion, they like debate, but there is no substance to it. Not much substance to it.
Back over there.
I'm working at Princeton University. My name is Wada. I have a question about public security. Well, if you want, you said you want to run bus services 24 hours a day, and you're planning to run subways 24 hours a day. I think there's going to be a security issue or safety issue. What are your thoughts on public security?
Subways, we don't have 4 tracks, as I said, so it will be very difficult to have round-the-clock services, but we can really extend the service hours. Bus from Shibuya to Roppongi, we will start the operation of midnight bus operation. These are the places where people linger late at night, so the rest, it's the same kind of worry that I said.
人のやはり行き来が盛んになればそれだけ僕も東京出身なので
I'm from Tokyo, so as more people go back and forth, there's a security issue. It becomes more serious. My parents still live there. Like Koban, the police box system, I wonder if it's going to really work. Continue to work?
Well, Tokyo has the best record of safety and security, no worry. I think I can categorically say that there is no worry about security and safety in Tokyo.
ニューヨーク大学の大学院で公共政策を勉強している真鍋と申します。本日は貴重なお話をいただきましてありがとうございます。ニューヨークに住んでいる日本人として猪瀬知事のようなピープルがいらっしゃってお話しされることはとても心強く感じております。先ほどのお話でもありましたが、東京の地下鉄について私もお尋ねしたいと思います。私、ニューヨークに住んで1年ほどになりますが、24時間地下鉄が運行していることはとても便利だと考えておりますが、その一方でそのトレードオフだと思うんですが、週末は頻繁にサービスチェンジが行われて、この路線は運行しません。といったことがあります。また、私が大学通学に使うような時間帯もですね、営業列車の間にのんびりと資材を運んでいる保守用の車ですかね、そういったのを走ったりして、とても不便を感じることがままあります。その一方で、先ほど、都営地下鉄だと思うのですが、なるべくそのサービスのない時間帯を短くしていって、夜間、早朝でも運転するようにしていきたいというお考えだと理解しておりますが、その一方で都知事の観点から、実現に向けてさまざまな課題があるとお考えだと思います。ゆくゆくその、24時間が難しいにしても、都営地下鉄のサービスの時間帯を伸ばしていくお考えであるとするならば、どういった点が課題になると今の時点でお考えかをお聞かせください。
これはまずは
First and foremost,
残念ながら地下鉄が
unfortunately, there are 2 kinds of subway operators. In order to have a connection, sometimes you were inconvenienced. So there was a wall, so the wall is replaced. And then there is an interconnection possible. Another way is that the internet mail service is possible in subway stations, all of them. In New York, it's not complete yet. So in certain places, it is possible, but Wi-Fi connection is possible. But you see, if a line is installed along the stations and rails, the internet connection is possible. So we have done it by March this year. So all of a sudden, an earthquake may hit, or a hurricane may hit, and electricity supply may be disrupted. Where you are, you can communicate using the internet connection. So that that is what we have accomplished in Tokyo. The first basic thing is this ability to communicate. It's the first step of risk management. So we have two operators, so we want to combine these two separate operators into one. So these are the steps that we would like to follow.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Brown. I'm a graduate from the College of William & Mary. I really liked hearing about the special economic zones that you're planning on making in Tokyo, but I was wondering whether or not that would be perhaps a first step towards maybe getting people to start families in Japan and in Tokyo to help with the country's aging population, if that's a first step, to maybe get people to become Japanese citizens.
まずは来ていただかないと。
Firstly, you have to come.
お金を持ってきていただくという。
With money. You have to come with money to Tokyo.
そのために法人税を下げて。
To that end, we are reducing the corporate tax. Seoul and Singapore, they are reducing the effective corporate tax rate. Amid this context, we are hovering at the high rate of corporate tax, just like New York. Then people will not come. So we want people to come with money.
Inose 都知事、今日は貴重なご意見どうもありがとうございました。ライターをしています前田真理と申します。
My name is Maeda Mari.
その地下鉄でメールが使えるようになったのですごく画期的なことだと思うんですけれども、
I think it's great that we can use internet in subway, but we have Wi-Fi spots in Times Square or Bryant Park or in certain buses, on certain buses, and I find those services very convenient. So the IT or internet environment, what is the situation in Tokyo now, and what do you plan to do?
Basically, other than the subterranean levels, the connection is made. That's why subways were left alone. So 2 years ago, Mr. Son, Masayoshi Son of SoftBank, sort of communicated with me when I was the deputy governor. So we started working on bureaucracy. Works very slow, so speed is very important. So above ground, the radio reaches. So maybe there are some spots with the private railway companies where connection is not still possible, but by and large, connection is accomplished. Wi-Fi environment is provided in various shopping malls and so forth. So I think it is by and large accomplished.
Hi, I'm Lex Heslin from Beautiful Earth Group. We're a renewable energy developer. And thank you so much for coming, Governor Inose, and sharing your strategies with us. One thing I really love that you said is that countries can make decisions, but they take a long time. Cities can make decisions quickly. And for renewable energy, you may have read the article in the New York Times last week that a mayor in California just passed a law that all new buildings must have solar energy in their construction. And that's very unique in the US, of course. And as we go towards the Olympics, is there anything special or dramatic that Tokyo could do to show the world that the energy is clean and that it's safe in Tokyo, like this mayor did in California?
Yes, Governor Ishihara had a solid plan that has to be appreciated. In 2006, by the year 2020, compared with the base year of year 2000, the CO2 emission will have to be reduced by 25%. That's what he said. And the program will be implemented from 2010. So this is 2013. This year is 2013. So large high-rise buildings already 17% or so has been reduced. So looking toward the 25% reduction, they have accomplished until 17%. Small and medium-scaled companies may not be able to do. But a 30% reduction by 2035? 2030? By 2030, 30% reduction. That was said, but that is too far away in the future. We are saying that by 2020, 25 reduction. Al Gore said in 2007, so by 2030, 30% reduction. So, but Governor Ishihara said that compared from a base year over 2000 in 2006, by 2020, a 25% reduction, it's being implemented. But unfortunately, New York Times does not pick up this story. I think New York Times should have a great article about this.
We're just about out of time.
Thanks very much. Duncan McCargo, Columbia University, visiting from the University of Leeds. Since it seems that the politics has been much more dynamic in the cities and people like yourself have been elected as governors, do you think there's a case for moving to a direct election of prime ministers or changing the Japanese political system in some way?
Let me see. We have the parliamentary system just like UK. So majority of the Diet members decide on the Prime Minister. So it's not the direct election of Prime Minister. Well, you have a presidential system in the United States. You can elect a president directly. I can understand what you are saying. And if it is a good idea, I hope it is happening. But decision takes time. So I don't think debating that is not meaningful. If an idea is good, then it should be put into implementation right away. The good idea must be implemented right away. Well, time is running short, so just one last word that I would like to say. Hurricane Sandy must have been very stressful. Just a word about March 11. I said that Japan's civilization is unto itself. There was a great tsunami hitting Japan. Of course, we suffered from many rounds of tsunami, but the magnitude of earthquake was the magnitude which would happen only once in 1,000 years. In Japanese history, records talk about the tsunami. In 869, the same level of tsunami hit. 869 is the time when it was before the tale of Genji was written. The sound is cut off. Oh, yes, it's coming back. In fact, Japan suffered a lot of damages from natural disaster. Instead of hurricane, we have typhoon. But our culture is the overcoming of those natural calamities. Jogan earthquake hitting 869. About 100 years afterwards, in Kyoto, there was a poem composed. It's called the Tanka Forum, and the poem goes like, we promised the love will continue forever, as solid as the last hill of Matsuyama, which was not overtaken by tsunami waves. It's a very short tanka. It's a short poem. It means that the last hill of many hills were taken by tsunami waves, but the last hill of Matsuyama was not taken by tsunami. So our relationship would be as solid as the last hill of Matsuyama. That was the gist of the poem. So this is a poem in the emotion of women. So after after the calamity, after the natural disaster, it is elevated into a cultural quality, and it is recorded by way of a poetry. And it is handed down to current day Japan. That is a Japanese culture. So 1,000 years ago, we suffered a damage from natural disaster, but the memory of Japanese archipelago is remaining as the memory of a Japanese mentality. It is very clearly etched into the memory of Japan. So I said, and this is closely connected with the nothingness which is located in the center of hustle-bustle city of Tokyo. This is a way of expression, this is a way of mentality of Japan, and this is led into the meticulous ability to organize or operate anything. So I just once again would like to tell you the capability and the competence that Japan has.
Appreciation to Governor Inose.
改めてご清聴ありがとうございます。